You can't say I worked at this job from 2023 to 2024 because that could be 24 months or it could be 2 days.
Yeah, but if it is 2 days, doesn't it kind of make it look longer? And
if you're hiding something, sure. You go ahead and hide something. You're probably going to get caught at some point.
I mean, that would look a little weird if it said every other month, but then one job I just casually left out the months.
Welcome to Next Job Now,
the podcast where we help you get your next job
right now. I'm Greg Langstaff. I'm a certified resume strategist. I've written over 2,000 resumes, and I love helping people get new jobs.
And I'm Jeff, and I have lots of questions about getting jobs. Today's episode, we're going to talk templates, layouts, and design. Today's biggest question, Greg, what are hiring managers looking at when they read our resume?
I mean, they're looking at the whole resume. You've probably heard about the 5 to 10 second scan that they do. And in that time frame, they're really just quickly looking at job titles, years of experience, and then if we happen to catch their attention with any good bullet points or the upfront branding where we're kind of describing ourselves before the experience, that can be really beneficial. And that's really all you get before they decide if you're a definite no, and if you're getting into the I'm going to actually read this resume pile.
So that scan you're talking about that's often called the F scan. Is that right? Scan or 6 second scan, 6 to 10.
Yeah. But the F scan, as you're describing, comes from the shape, they're reading kind of across the top, which is why in all our templates, we start with our professional titles that we give ourselves, a few words to describe what we do, maybe our industry we're an expert in, and sort of our core skill. Mm-hmm. And then the second line across the F would be maybe a professional summary or a key skills section. And then they start to just read down on the left, which is the job titles, years of experience. And if we if we catch their attention with some good bullet points and stuff, that can be helpful too.
There's a concept in design and art, which is about negative space, or I guess white space on the resume, mm-hmm. which can help a reader kind of consume content more easily and increase the readability of a document or an art piece or something. So I'm wondering, with resumes being 1 to 2 pages,
yep,
that's pretty valuable real estate. So how does the negative space and kind of white space, does it hold the same value that does in art and design to resumes?
That's such an interesting thought, because, and yes, as Jeff alluded to, 2 pages is fine. I want to go on record. 2 pages is what your resume should be, unless you're a student who just started and you don't have much to say, or you're a professor with, as I always say, tons of articles you've published. Most people aren't going to need that extra space, and most people are going to need more than 1 page. So 2 pages, perfect. And that does allow us to put in an appropriate amount of white space. Because your resume is also a window into your personality and what it's going to be like to work with you. And if you're jamming in words into every square millimeter of that document, it's going to also come across you're a little bit frantic, hard to work with. You're going to be sending emails that are 2,000 words long. We want some space to breathe, but not too much, because then it kind of looks like we don't have a lot of accomplishments to brag about ourselves.
Too much white space, a hiring manager is just going to look at that and go, they don't have enough experience. They're not even reading the bullet points. They're just doing the F scan and going, there's nothing here.
Yeah.
A resume, though we're talking about white space and negative space and its importance, it's also not a design document.
That's right. And we do have to stick within the conventions of what people expect our resume to look like, meaning we talked about in the last episode, starting with our name and contact info, and then a bit of branding, and then our experience in reverse chronological order, and then the other kind of education and stuff like that. So yeah, I mean, layout is pretty important, and the arrangement also really matters.
So you mentioned name, contact info, professional title. what do we put for our name and our contact information?
You know what? I'm just gonna say my name spiel now. A few things are important about your name. One is that it needs to be the same everywhere. I would never put Greg Langstaff on my LinkedIn profile and Gregory Langstaff on my resume, for example.
I've introduced myself as Jeff, and I can't go back to Jeffrey.
No, you got to stick with it.
That's
because they look at your resume and then they look at your LinkedIn, and it's just like, especially you, because you have like a more common name. There's maybe other Jeffrey Collinses out there. So if they're like getting Jeff here and Jeffrey here,
yeah, who's who?
Could be tricky. Yeah. So, and the other thing, like, I know you were going to ask this, but I'll just jump right to it. Like, it doesn't have to be your legal name on your resume. Like,
and that's a big question. Can you put your preferred name or different names?
Yes. No, absolutely.
So what's your recommendation? To put your legal name? Do you put what you go by every day?
In your resume, you should write your name as the name you want to be called. And that like could be just like simple like me, not Gregory, but Greg. Or like, you know, maybe you've come from like a country and you have like a name that you've kind of adopted here in like a traditional like English language name. Like use that, you know, whatever you want to be called. When you get hired and they are putting in your like your bank deposit payroll information, like then you can give them your full legal name. That doesn't need to be in the resume.
They don't need that info yet.
No.
Just like they don't need to know your exact street address at this point.
No, not until they're mailing you your direct deposit. They don't mail a direct
deposit.
Mail that.
What are they even mailing us at this point?
They
don't need to know where I live.
Yeah.
I'm here to do the job.
Yeah, don't put your full address on your resume. They're just going to Google Street View your house, and then they might undercut your salary if they think your house doesn't look nice or whatever. So
talk to me a little bit, professional email. Is it a current work email? Is it a personal email?
I mean, it doesn't really matter like where your email is coming from. It's fine to use your work email unless you don't want like your job to know your job searching and you think they're tracking your email. The big email like no I see is don't use your birth year in your email. And Ariana, if you're watching this, my wife, you're gonna need a new email at some point because I know that's in there.
Now, any preferences of like, my first email was at hotmail.com, or do we update? Do we have Gmails? Is there a preferred one? If someone's pulling a Yahoo.
I think Yahoo and AOL date us a little bit.
Okay.
So, I mean, Gmail's like pretty harmless. So if you're unsure, you should go as close to your real name as possible, as you're like before the @ part, and then yeah, Gmail's definitely the least damaging of all the options.
So talk to me about credentials. So sometimes beside our name, people will put additional credentials. What's different between a credential and a professional title?
So a credential is like, that's technically what you earn when you complete like a very formal education program, like a degree at a university. So like you could have your MBA, and that would kind of go after your name. Like I have a Master's of Science, so like after my name, Greg Langstaff, comma MS goes there because I've earned that credential. And then like you just like if it's anything more than a bachelor's degree, so master's, like your PhD, whatever it is, that can go in. And then like just after that, you kind of have to know in your industry if like it's relevant. So like PMP, the project management professional, super popular one. I have the certified resume strategist, and I throw that in there, CRS. No one knows what that means if they're not like looking for a resume strategist or whatever, but like it's relevant to me, so I pop it in there. The professional title, like you said, that is like what we're using to describe ourselves, and that doesn't necessarily go as part of our name, but it's like the very next thing we say. So like I would want you to know right after my name, maybe right below or just off to the right, I would say certified resume strategist. Because if you're looking to hire me, that's the one most important thing I want you to know about me. So, could be like operations manager, innovation and growth manager.
It's like a little hook so that I'm looking for an operations manager myself.
Yeah.
Now they're actually going to read your resume because you very concisely narrowed down their search to me.
Yeah.
You're looking for me.
Yes. Like
Okay.
in right after your name, the professional title is like 1 to 3 words that answers the question, should this person have applied to this job? Like it might just be accountant. If they're hiring an accountant, they know that they're going to read your resume because they need an accountant.
Are there any rules to calling myself a operations specialist or I'm an operations expert?
I mean, that like professional title section of your resume is kind of the Wild West because you're just describing yourself. But like, for one, you'd want to make sure you are not like, you're not claiming you have a credential. Like, you can't call yourself like a certified project manager if you're not. Um, but then, like, most of the time, like, expert, as you said, like, it needs to make sense when they go on to read the rest of your resume.
Mm-hmm.
Because I could call myself Greg Langstaff, star point guard, but then if there's
He's more of a shooting guard.
yeah, it's true.
That's my only critique on that example.
I'm not looking to pass very often.
No,
being
no.
honest. Getting shots up.
Yeah.
Okay, but like if they read down through my resume and they don't see like any evidence of that, then I've lost all credibility. So like, it gets you in the door, but you have to make sure you're getting in the right door.
Yeah, fair enough. So after you recommend, and what you've talked about in the past is moving on to the professional summary, and that, to what I understand, correct me if I'm wrong, is the modern version of an objective statement, but it's shifting away from what our goal is, which is really to get a job or change jobs and progress our career. But now these professional summaries, is really focusing on what we bring to the company.
Mm-hmm.
So my question is, when did that shift happen and why?
I guess like, I don't know when it happened because it happened before I started writing resumes, which is another thing. Like if we're dating, we are dating ourselves if we have an objective statement in the resume, just because that hasn't been taught in 20 years or so. I don't know.
I feel like I was like going back to my high school careers class, and I feel like now if that's 20 years ago, that's fair, but I don't think it is. But that's fair.
My high school careers class was 20 years ago.
Stop.
Yeah. Like, why did that change happen? I think it's because like people have realized, firstly, every objective statement was the same for forever. I want to get this job at this company. Yeah. But more importantly, like that's the prime real estate of your resume. It's like one of the first things they see. And so like the shift from, hey, I want this, to like, hey, I'm going to be a really great asset for you, so you should hire me because of all these reasons I've summarized. Like, it's just way more powerful for us as the person applying.
So what am I putting in there?
Okay, sentence 1 of your professional summary should be what you do, how many years experience you have, and maybe a little bit on like what industries you've worked in. Sentence 2, we should dive immediately into hard evidence that we're good at our job. So like, what's your best highlight? And sometimes, like, if you feel really good about that, put it in bold, put some numbers in there. Yeah. And then, the maybe, and I don't usually go more than 3 sentences, maybe 4. But the third one, again, is just sort of like some other things you bring to the table, like your breadth of your best skills. And that's all you really need. Or a second highlight if you're feeling good about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's going to guide the hiring manager into reading the overview, and then whether it's above or below, you also always kind of recommend having skills or an area of expertise. And what I've seen in your templates and things online is it's literally just a list of the things that maybe in your profession or that you particularly excel at. So how are we building this out? What should be going into those skills and areas of expertise?
The key skills and areas of expertise, like section of the resume, is really a place for us to kind of dump like the most relevant skills, and we're literally checking boxes for them. So what we would put in there is a list of things we saw in their job description that they're asking for that we can bring to the table. This is usually like top priorities, the actual like functions of the job, logistical planning, cost savings, people leadership, forensic accounting, whatever like those hard skills are, digital marketing, operations management, and so on. And then you might pop in like if there's industry terminology that you see in there that you're familiar with, that's great. Software that they require you to use that you're good at, like that should pretty much fill up the whole list.
Mm-hmm. Are we including things like Microsoft Word, Excel? Is that somewhere like different where we're actually talking about like proficiencies, or does that kind of not exist on your resume anymore? And I mean, depending on your role, it's probably assumed that you might be good at Excel, or does it depend? So if you're a software engineer, I'm good at Excel, that's not relevant, and it's assumed that you are. So maybe fill that with something a little bit more impressive.
Yeah. I mean, I always say like if you have more than like say 4 or 5 technical skills that you want to list, make it a separate section, like a technical proficiencies section, and that can be its whole entire list all on its own. And then like, but yeah, if you are technical at all, like leave out the basic stuff, the Microsoft Office, Google Workspace, like we all know you know how to do that.
Yeah. So keywording, which is about aligning the language from the job description to our resume, does it need to be word for word? Can I take some of that language, go to thesaurus.com, find a synonym, and be like, nice.
Is that where you're getting your words?
Or right-click synonym on Word.
Yeah.
Like, where else do you get your words?
I don't know. Well, mostly my brain. Okay, does it have to come word for word from the job description? Honestly, it doesn't hurt. What we don't want is like 2 to 3 words coming like word for word from the job description, such as like, email marketing campaigns. Yes, that's great. Use that word for word. It's not going to look weird. If you're pulling like a full sentence out, they're going to clock that and it's going to feel weird. And it might even get flagged as like a keyword stuffing situation. So yeah, but like also just so people know, like this scanning software that the companies are using, like they pay a lot of money for it. So they're not going to pay for like a software that is going to like kick out a strong candidate because they called themselves an operations leader and not an operations manager. You know what I mean? Like that, those filtering tools are like an asset for the company. And if it's throwing out great people because of the wrong keywords, they're not going to pay for it.
I'm glad you brought up the ATS again, applicant tracking software. So when it's filtering, I guess layout and template, like it needs to be readable. So in a lot of the templates, and you have 10 plus templates that you've designed.
We've got a lot of templates.
You have a lot of templates.
Yeah.
And I do see that a lot of them have like a table format.
Yeah.
Is that readable?
Yeah. So whenever, if you've heard people say like, don't use tables in your resume, the concern there is that we're using a table to format the entire resume, which often, like if you see a 2-column resume, it's often made using a table function. And just like the risk there is maybe it reads like the content out of order a little bit. Like it might read all the columns first and then read the next column when you intended for it to read like across the rows instead of like down the side. And, so it's not like it makes the words invisible, but it can maybe put them in a weird order. So when we're listing like our key skills, it doesn't matter what order those are in. And the table makes it look nice. So,
okay, thank you for clearing up that myth that I've often seen people kind of say that's not ATS compliant, and like, okay, I don't know enough, so like, thank you for sharing. Now let's talk about the main event, the experience section.
Yeah.
Which, when I think of a resume, that's probably the only thing that I think a resume is: your work history, your experience.
Yeah.
So talk to me. What is the experience section and what should be included here?
Well, obviously a list of all of our jobs in reverse chronological order. And like we're describing, and I usually put the info in this order. So a job title, then the company name, the location, like city and state, and then the dates. including months. And we got to include the months because you can't say I worked at this job from 2023 to 2024 because that could be 24 months or it could be 2 days.
Yeah, but if it is 2 days, doesn't it kind of make it look longer? And it's less,
Okay,
it doesn't
sure.
call it out so obvious.
If you're hiding something, sure. You go ahead and hide something. You're probably going to get caught at some point.
I mean, that would look a little weird if it said every other month, but then one job I just casually left out the months.
Yeah. Those are the pieces: job title, company name, location, dates, including months. Then I'll do like a little overview for each job before we get into bullet points to like just the lay of the land. And it's usually like 2 lines on the page, and it covers like, how did we get into this company? What is the company? And then like, what are my high level responsibilities? So it could sound like hired by the mid-sized sneaker manufacturer to take on responsibility for design and marketing and branding of the new line of sneakers. I saw you perked up at sneakers.
I love shoes.
I know. We both do.
I know. Okay, so before you kind of dive into bullet points, or what you call badass bullet points, I want to ask a question about job titles.
Sure.
So can I change my job title? Now, I know it's like, Jeff, be real. I would want to change it if it's to make it a little bit more obvious, because sometimes there's jobs out there that sound a lot different than what they actually are. And if I'm applying for like an administrative assistant role, and that's the target job, is it cool to change my responsibilities where like I have been an admin assistant? It's just called customer liaison and something like that. And that doesn't fit my target role.
Yeah. If you have like a slightly inaccurate job title or like a job title that's specific to the company, you do want to try to change it, but there's some rules.
Okay.
Like, firstly, anyone doing a reference check at that company needs to be on board. So like, if you can talk to your previous manager or whoever they're going to call, just to let them know, like, I've changed the job title just for like clarity. And here's what I'm using. If they're cool with it, that's all you need. You put whatever title that you kind of agree on with them. If you feel like that's going to be like a bit of an issue, or you don't want to talk to them about it, you put the legal title, and then in brackets after that, you can include like the actual accurate title. And then like, also if the title's just like weird because your company made it weird, then like you can also kind of clarify or simplify it, I guess. Like my job at York University was the title was the UStart Program Coordinator. That's not applicable anywhere else. So it was like a new student transition program, but that's what UStart was. So I named myself the new student transition program coordinator. And now suddenly other people know what I did.
Yes.
So
there's an appropriate time to do it, but it can't be misleading.
Yeah.
You got to get the people who are going to have to speak to that role to understand that the change, so that there's no surprise. And I guess you can always use the short overview that you were talking about to provide that additional context when your title's not super clear. Yeah,
that's the beauty of the overview. You can like explain the functions of the role, and you could even call yourself like you could say, hired to this director level role to take on responsibility for blah, blah, blah. And like that way, if your title wasn't director, but you're kind of acting like a director, then you've explained yourself.
Yeah, that makes sense. Now we're going to have a full episode about badass bullet points.
Yeah.
But I do want to provide some valuable context for anyone who's listening to this episode, so that they can get to it. Can you tell me what a badass bullet point is?
Sure.
And why and how that is different from the old way of listing our job duties?
Yeah. Okay, so the badass bullet point, and I don't think we said this, the bullet points come after the overview, and that take up most of the space. A badass bullet point is not so much us describing a responsibility we had in the job, but describing that responsibility in action with a little mini story. So like a badass bullet point usually contains 3 things. So we start with like an action verb. created, coordinated, saved, generated, something like that. Just like, so we're talking about something we did. And then some real specific detail. This is where we're kind of telling the story. And I love to work in numbers where we can as well, just like volume, quantity, scope, context based numbers, and then results. Like that's and a bullet point that has action verbs, specific detail, and results is telling a story that sells you. So if you're thinking about like how do I sell myself on my resume, it's these badass bullet points.
So to prep for this, I created an example based on your ebook. And I was wondering if I could read it to you and get your honest thoughts and feedback.
Yeah, hit me.
Okay. So here is the original sentence.
Okay.
The original bullet point. Answered phone lines and triaged to appropriate departments.
Yeah, that's pretty basic.
Yep. Yeah. So here we go. Provided high volume reception support by accurately assessing and routing 200 plus calls daily, minimizing misdirected inquiries, and cutting operator redirects by 50%.
Oh, that's good. Because it's like, here's what I did. I did a lot of it. And then like the result ties in like I was good at what I did. Nice.
I did well?
Yes, you did great.
I'm learning how to write bullet points pretty well.
Yeah.
I'm impressed. Okay, now I have to be honest about bullet points. And that is like a little elevator pitch for kind of every single task and project.
Mm-hmm.
And as an applicant, my first instinct there is if you want to know how amazing I am and all the things that I've achieved, then why don't you bring me in for an interview and ask me these questions? That's what an interview is for. So why do I have to do this on my resume?
Why do you have to write your accomplishments in your resume? Why can't they just interview you?
Yeah.
Because 100, 200 people applied to the job. It's only going to take them like 1 to 2 minutes to properly read your resume. An interview could take like an hour, half an hour.
Okay, but if I'm putting all of my good examples on my resume and here's all the data, here's all the like results.
Yeah.
What am I saving for the interview?
Well, don't save anything for the interview. Don't save your dunks. Do you know the phrase?
I do know the phrase, but please walk me through don't save your dunks.
Okay, so if you're a fan of basketball like me, watch the NBA dunk contest every year. There's four competitors, and they each get to do 2 dunks in the first round, and then the top 2 move on to the second round. The biggest mistake that competitors in the NBA dunk contest make is saving their best dunks for last, because often they won't get to move on to the finals because they didn't do their best dunks at the beginning when they were competing with the most amount of people. So what we want to do is tell your best stories in your resume. That's what's going to get you through the 150 other applicants to the maybe 5 who get an interview. And then when you get to the interview, just tell those stories again. Like you told the story in like 30 words in your bullet point. You're going to have 3-4 minutes to tell them that story again. It's going to be a lot better and a lot more detail in the interview. And no one finds it weird to hear a story that they already read about in your resume in an interview. They want to know more. That's why they brought you in.
I feel like they don't even pull out the resume anymore and are verifying and following along to make sure that what you're saying is the same thing you wrote.
Maybe, but they're definitely not cross-referencing and being like, nah, that answer doesn't count. You already talked about it.
Okay, so because we're going to talk about bullet points in a lot more detail in a future episode, I do want to fire off some rapid fire questions. Good to go?
Yeah, hit me.
All right, how many bullet points per role?
Irrelevant. You've got the 2-page amount of you have 2 pages for your resume. You want to like just parse out your space appropriately so the most relevant stuff gets the most space, but there's no rules on maximum or minimum.
Okay, how far back are we going with our experience?
20 years. 20 years maximum, maybe 15.
You've said this 3 times since we started this podcast. You keep saying reverse chronological order. What is that and why that order?
Okay, reverse chronological means your most recent job goes at the top. and then second most recent, and so on. Why is because that is resume convention. That's what they're expecting to see. And to do it in any other order, it's just like kind of weird.
What are 3 great words to start a bullet point with?
Oh, like my 3 favorite action verbs?
Yeah.
Spearheaded, love spearheaded. Generated, because that's usually going towards like a big win. I don't know, probably directed, which can kind of do the same thing as spearheaded, but it's like I was responsible for this, other people involved, and I was, came on, it was on my shoulders. Those are my big 3.
Okay, well, what's the worst bullet point, worst action verb to start a bullet point with?
If it's still technically an action verb, helped. It's like you're just downplaying your impact immediately.
If anyone listening wants a free resource, Greg has an ebook titled 54 Badass Bullet Points for Your Resume. I definitely recommend downloading it. And you also have a sequel to that book, which has 10 times the amount of bullet points. It's 540 Badass Bullet Points for Your Resume. And that's available on Greg's website. Okay, that's the experience section. Bring me down to education, which I think is the natural next one.
Yeah, it's usually the next thing.
Okay, if education is often a requirement for jobs, having a bachelor's, having a master's preferred, all these types of education requirements, then why are we listing it so low on our resume?
Because like it's really, for a lot of people, it's just checking a box. And like when you fill out your application form on like the website or LinkedIn or whatever, they're gonna like ask you if you have this, and like that's something an ATS scanner does filter people out for if you don't have the requisite education. So like they already probably know, so you may as well just pop it down at the bottom to like confirm. And if you have anything like extra in advance, that's why we talked about putting the credential in your name. Like if your MBA is at the bottom of page 2 but it says Jeffrey Collins MBA, then they already know. I know you don't, but
Does it change with the level of education? Like for new grads, someone's just coming out and graduating, do you recommend moving it up so they're not surprised by maybe a lack of experience?
Yes. If you're in school or you're a new grad within like even maybe 3 years, education can come before your experience. And like if you're a student or like a new grad, you might have some bullet points under your education. We could do a full episode on like new grad resumes, but yeah, like bullet points under there on relevant courses, maybe a capstone project, or if you had like, involved in leadership roles with like student counselor, a club or something, that can all go in there too.
You also talk about additional certifications and awards. So what are we including in this section? Are we listing everything that we were certified in, every award that we received from high school on, track and field, or is this performance-based awards?
And
what's going here?
You've got me thinking about all the possible awards someone could include.
I know. Let's take a look at your trophy wall.
Those are just Funko Pops I purchased.
Oh.
Yeah. It's like, again, it's like what's relevant and what fits in the 2 pages. Because if you only have a page and a half of like your branding, your work experience, because you've only had a couple jobs, then you can fill up the rest of page 2 with a big old list of awards and certifications. But if you're like tight on space, you do have to kind of, again, use the job description to define like what are they looking for, and then prioritize based on that.
In our first episode, we briefly touched on the fact that you don't need to add references.
That's correct.
And the reason for that is that you can just provide it separately, right? Like it's assumed that when the employer asks, hey, can you provide me with 3 references so I can call to verify that you are who you are and you did what you did what you say you did, that you're going to give that over.
Yeah.
And that makes a lot of sense.
And the reference is available upon request thing. Like there's no world in which they read your resume, they don't see that you wrote references available upon request, and then they assume you have no references to share because you didn't write that. Like they're still going to ask you anyway.
Yeah. Okay, so we don't need to include that. That's just a waste of our space.
And it dates us a little bit because also that hasn't been taught in probably 20 years.
Now, for anyone who doesn't want to type a resume up from scratch, you you do have some templates available. Is there any template that you recommend as a starting point?
Well, I have on my website, greglangstaff.com/resume templates. Probably just go to greglangstaff.com. You'll find it. Template 1 is so good and it's free, so you can definitely start there. My favorite template that I use for a lot of my clients is called template 3.1, and it's it doesn't look special necessarily. It's pretty conventional. It's got a little bit of blue in there, but it just it converts so reliably. We've never had issues with someone not liking how it looked, and just I don't know, over the many years we've been using it, it just gets people jobs over and over and over. So that's the one I use the most.
Thanks, Greg. Now we're going to move on to my favorite segment, which is called Unusual Interviews, where we ask each other questions that we hope you never get asked. So I'll go first.
Sure.
All right. So, Greg, which pastry best describes your personality?
I like to think of myself as a cherry pie because, on the outside, I think I'm pretty visually crusty.
That's not where I thought you were gonna go.
I don't know.
Visually, I thought you were visually soft and bright, and fun.
Yeah, that's what
crusty.
Crust is bright and soft and fun. I'm talking about pie crust. I can come in cool designs.
Oh, this is a closed top cherry pie.
Yeah.
I pictured an open top.
That's
where they would
not
see
a thing.
The ins. It's not. I don't know. I'm not a pie guy. Sorry,
all right.
This is your question.
If you're not a pie guy, maybe we leave the pie talk to the pie guy. And then on the inside, I'd say sweet and sour all at once.
You're a little sweet and sour?
I think so. I've been usually pretty nice, but I don't mind a little bit of razzing here and there. Yeah, and it's my favorite pie, so it was the first thing I thought of. Yeah. Did I get the job?
We are still exploring other candidates.
Okay. All right, Jeff, your turn for unusual interviews. Name as many types of cheese as you can.
Ooh, brie, Gouda, old, medium, soft, hard. Are these types of cheeses?
No.
Actually, Gouda is what I've learned, not Gouda.
That's still okay. So that's not an extra.
Yeah, I was just correcting myself, unless I did it again and I'm actually mispronouncing it wrong again.
I don't know, but I'm getting real nervous about it.
Let us know in the comments.
I think you've actually said 2 types of cheese.
Cheddar.
Great.
Mozzarella.
Good.
Or
let's get one more.
Fleur de lis? No, is that?
I think that's a flower on a flag.
What is the cheese I'm thinking of?
I don't know.
It goes on a margarita pizza, but it's not mozzarella. What's the cheese? It's a Fleur de latte. Oh, it's still a mozzarella. Parmesan. That's a record number of cheeses for anyone.
I think that was 5 total.
Did I get the job?
Yeah. Yes, because you knew when to ask for help.
Thank you. And thank you.
Thank you. Yes. Thanks everyone for watching, and we'll be back in the next episode where we're going to talk about keywording and professional branding on your resume.